The Middle of the Pack podcast.
I'm such a big believer in the run clubs. So we've run clubs, but they're social. It's not about pace and all that, but it's just an opportunity to be outside and to speak with people. And I say before, I give a bit of a talk before in terms of the whole premise of this run is that you run with someone you know, someone you don't know, but at some point throughout the run, you ask how they've really been. And it's a lot easier to speak and open up when you're shoulder by shoulder as opposed to face to face. It feels a lot easier, especially if you're outside, you're moving. It just comes a bit more naturally. So I'm a big believer in getting people outside and going on runs, walks, any form of exercise, and using that as a way to check in as well.
Welcome to episode 53 of the Middle of the Pack podcast, and that is this week's guest, Paddy McClintock, or Patrick McClintock, and he spent the next half an hour talking to me all about his Project Ireland, running from top to bottom, or bottom to top actually, of Ireland, raising funds for his Check In on a Mate charity. But he's tell his background to running. He's telling us all about the charity. He's telling us all about the wonderful things that he has done in his short life. He's only 23 and he continues to raise money, continues to create awareness. But we'll start this week's episode where I just asked him, as always, how he got into running. Welcome to episode 53 of the Middle of the Pack podcast. And here is Paddy McClintock.
Yeah, so my background was always originally rugby. I played from a very early age and went up and played a bit of academy and just played throughout my life. And it wasn't really until university that I actually started getting into running. It's about 5 years ago, I lost a close friend of mine to suicide, and he was very big into his triathlon. And so what I did next was I signed up to kind of a half Ironman to try and raise a bit of money, raise a bit of awareness. And that was kind of the gateway in. I know, it was crazy. And so then, the next kind of 3-4 years after that was very much Ironman focused. The year after, I went on to 3 half Ironmans, and then I had a bit of an injury playing rugby where I tore a couple of my ligaments, my ACL, my MCL, my right knee, and kind of set myself the task of getting back as quickly and as effectively as possible. So I signed up to full Ironman exactly 1 year post-injury date, and that was my first full Ironman. And then did another one last year in Barcelona. So Ironman's very much been the last kind of 4 or 5 years, kind of building the aerobic base. And my background is in medicine. So I found a lot of the kind of training aspects really interesting in terms of, well, how can we build this? How can we continue to kind of build fitness and get myself to really competing, as I'm usually one of the heavier athletes out in the Ironman races. And then, I kind of launched the charity a couple of years ago, and off the back of that, it's been kind of building it, and it's all about kind of mental health awareness through sports. And I've been wanting to do something big for a while. I know Ironmans are big races, and kind of some of these running events are really big as well. But I wanted something that was just a lot bigger on all fronts. Logistics, distance, time, energy, absolutely everything. I really wanted to see where the ceiling lay. And originally, I'd planned on running the length of the UK. But, for a number of reasons, kind of logistically and, being from Northern Ireland myself, it made sense that we went with Ireland. And so that kind of naturally transitioned in. And the last 10 months has been very much building towards what was a couple of weeks ago, finishing last week. And it still feels somewhat surreal to have, gotten to this point now and to have completed it. A lot of it's interesting how the mind kind of goes to these different places and how your kind of concept of time becomes somewhat warped as a result. So all kind of Ironman up until the last year where I thought, let's go big in the running, and decided to set the goal of Project Ireland.
From the point of view of size, what kind of position did you play in rugby? You're a big lad, are you forward or a back?
Yeah, so I'm about 90. I went into Project Ireland at 93 kilograms, and I was thinking I'm probably the heaviest person to ever attempt this. And so I play back row, usually open side flanker. I'm definitely not the lightest bloke, no.
So it sounds like you kind of went deep end, because like going from half Ironmans to Ironman is not like doing your local park run and nipping along to a 10K. You've been. Do you think long distance is the kind of thing that's more suited to you and your body and your makeup?
I don't know. I think for my mind, I enjoy being able to go there to callous it and to kind of really see myself as, there's kind of there's something about, just being out there and knowing that you're the only person that can get yourself through. You're the only person that can pull you out of that pit. So from a mental aspect, I absolutely love the ultra endurance stuff. From a physical point of view, I think I'm probably a bit more suited to the shorter distances, but I just enjoy the long stuff and the kind of journey along it, and the kind of way that you get to really come down face to face with yourself and ask yourself those hard questions of, why am I here? Why am I doing this? How am I going to get through?
So let's go straight into the Project Ireland thing, because I think that's a major achievement. How did that all start? How did you train for it? And then we can go into the nitty gritty of it after that.
Yes. So as I said, kind of originally we'd thought of doing the UK. So I'm in between my penultimate. I'm going into my final year of medical school in London now, and I only have 6 weeks of break. So
Okay.
originally I thought doing the length of UK, John O'Groats to Land's End, but from a time perspective, it would have been very tight. From a crew perspective, it would have been asking a lot. And being from Ireland, having friends, family there, knowing the route and the roads, it just seemed a lot better, a lot more suited. And so Project Ireland started to take shape in the best part of 9, 10 months ago. And we started kind of originally planning, thinking, what does this look like from a logistical point of view, from a planning, from preparation. And then I got a new coach. His name's Nick Coates. He's an ex-army officer and has worked with people who've taken on these ultra day, kind of ultra marathons, and kind of has coached people to world records and stuff like that. So he was very, very good in terms of essentially putting the reins on me, because I was very, before that, I was just trying to ramp in the volume and not paying loads of attention to my kind of metrics in terms of kind of my heart rate variability, my kind of sleep and everything. So he very much put the training wheels temporarily on me to further understand my body, further understand my adaptation to training. And I was also managing rugby season as well. So playing rugby in university at the same time. So it was very much trying to get through that injury free. We play in kind of the oldest rugby competition in the world, the UH Cup, the United Hospitals in London. So playing through that, which we ended up winning. And I think the biggest win was definitely being injury free out the back of it. So
Brilliant.
it was managing kind of medical school, managing relationships, social life, managing the charity, everything outside of that. And it very much was progressive ramping. And yes, it got to about 90 kilometers weekly, kind of 2, 3 months out. And then I picked up a bit of an injury in my foot, my peroneus brevis, one of the tendons that inserts onto the side of the foot. I just started to get a bit of tendinopathy. So 2 months out, I'm thinking, this is not ideal. It was painful to walk, painful to run, and I had to give it physiotherapy and really, really pull it all back, because it's one of those injuries that some people have run through. But the risk there is, does it then does it turn into a full tear? Does this cause, skeletal damage? And so it was very much pulling it back down to the basics. I was doing, 15 kilometers a week for the best part of a month, which, being 6 weeks out from taking on a best part of a 700-kilometer ultra marathon, I was thinking, I'm never going to get through.
The fact that you're in the medical profession, then do you become more paranoid because you're more aware, or is it a case of you're more knowledgeable, so you can the solutions? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a bit of both. I think there's a little bit of ignorance is bliss in there in terms of, oh, it'll be fine. But very much, I knew what it could have turned into had I
Yeah.
pushed on and kind of disregarded it. So I'm very glad that, the coach and the physiotherapist really, really pulled the reins, went like, no, let's just get you to the start line healthy, as opposed to as fit as you possibly can do, which is something that a lot of people have told me throughout a kind of Ironman career and the likes, is just get it to the finish, just get to the start line as healthy as you possibly can be, as opposed to 10% overtrained or 5% fatigued, as it'll just be a better outcome being healthy on the day. And so having that kind of 6 weeks out, I was going, this is the end. I'm going to get through. And it was actually a blessing in disguise, because I had my medical exams to sit throughout those weeks. That just gave me a bit of time to really focus on those, to allow my body to absorb what was the last 4, 5, 6 months of, 80 kilometers weekly. And then kind of 4 or 5 weeks post the injury, it started to ease. I spent a lot of time progressively building it up from kind of 10 minutes of running to 15 to 20, just trying to keep it pain free. And a lot of this was, running, jogging for 2 minutes and walking for one, and just progressively building it up. And then, yes, I had my kind of peak week, which was actually only 2 weeks out from Project Ireland, and it was about 95 kilometers, and had a simulation 4 days built in where, Monday was 15 kilometers, wearing all my kit, wearing everything, practicing my pacing, my nutrition. Tuesday was 15 kilometers and then practicing the break. So what do I want to do? How do I want to manage those in terms of rest, getting my legs up, what food works, what doesn't work, when do I need to go to the toilet, all the nitty gritty, and then going out for another 15. So the Tuesday was 30 kilometers, and then that was identical on the Wednesday. So kind of building these back to back to back days of fatigue. And I thought it was actually going to be finished on the Wednesday, and then my coach sprung it on me. He wanted me to go and do another 15K on a Thursday, which psychologically you kind of, you're like, right, Wednesday, it's done. I'm finished. I'm into taper now. And he sprung that one on me, which played in my mind. It was kind of like, because you think you're there, but there's
Yeah.
more. And actuality, it was really, really good that he did, because just getting up on the Thursday, knowing I didn't want to do it, knowing that I thought it was done, and still getting out and performing, and getting it across the line for me was really powerful, and kind of taught me, what I was to expect come Project Ireland. So peak week was about 2 weeks out from the beginning, and yeah, lots to be learned from that in terms of what works well, what socks, what Vaseline, all these different small things that, play the 1%, but across 700 kilometers will have a really big impact.
So tell me about the route. You started down south and you went up north.
Yes, so we started in Mizzen Head on the 17th of July, and it was biblical. The morning was just perfect. The sun was coming up, not a cloud in the sky, and the sea was extremely calm. So we started down in Mizzen, and then we made our way towards Cork via Skibbereen and Bandon. Got to Cork, and then it was kind of up towards Templemore and across towards Dublin. And Dublin was the next main city. And then it was straight up via Newry to Belfast, which is where I'm from, and then right up to Ballymena, and then finishing in Portrush, which is where I spent a lot of time as a kid.
My wife's from that neck of the woods. Portrush, Portstewart, Coleraine.
Yeah,
That triangle.
absolutely.
Yeah. Nice place to be. And the weather was, you were blessed with the weather, weren't you?
In fact, the first spot of rain I had was on day 13, which is somewhat of a miracle, I think. The second half of day 13, absolutely, cats and dogs down as I was running along the dual carriageway up to Ballymena. And
It
day
always
14,
rains in Ballymena.
it seems somewhat inevitable. I know, it truly does. And the kind of the funny part was, so I got to the finish line on the 14th day, and the day was completely beautiful the entire day. The second I crossed the finish line, the heavens just opened. I don't know if it was some greater force crying, or what it was, but the friends and family, everyone had to make a bit of a rush for safety, and hide in their cars very quickly after finish line.
So you have to rush to a local coffee shop up on the north coast, which is a normal practice up there as well. And so you had, I assume you had all your accommodation booked. You had, everything was down to a military precision, was it?
It was well, that's where some of the problems started to begin. So we had a camper van as means of kind of transport, as means of sleeping, and that moved from campsite to campsite. So that was the kind of base. And then we had a support car, which would move to the aid stations, and it would jump ahead, and then I'd run to the car. It would have the seats, kind of the deck chair, I'd get my legs up, all the food, little fridge to keep everything cool, and kind of any creature comforts, etc. as well. So that would jump ahead. But on day 3, there was a bit of an incident where the camper van took a bit of a bump. No one was injured. There was no issues. It was just turning into one of the campsites. Just the side of it got a bit damaged. So I spent all of day 4 on the phone with insurance companies, on the phone with body repair shops to see if we could get booked into the north of Ireland. And then my dad very kindly drove it up a few days later, and from day 4 onwards, we ended up just jumping from Airbnb to Airbnb. And then once we got up to the north, we were able to stay with friends and family. So it was a bit easier then.
Wow. That's a bit of a curveball that you probably didn't plan, obviously. Yeah.
No, then actually the end of day 3, just I'd run 50 kilometers, and then I heard about the camper van. Spent a lot of the day then kind of people managing in terms of the crew, because we had people in visiting, so kind of planning what to do, where to stay, get everyone sorted. And then I remember just sitting down with my dinner in the evening and just crying because
Yeah.
just so hyper emotional and fatigued, and everything was exhausting. And it just felt like, this could be the end, at a real moment for me in terms of just being able to kind of allow myself to feel that way. And then, right, how do we fix this? What are the next steps? How do we continue moving forwards and see that we get this done?
And what's the average length you were running per day? Because it was 14 days, wasn't it? Yeah.
14, it was the best part of, so it was kind of front loaded with longer days, in the front, but it was averaging about 50 kilometers per day. And then there were 2 or 3 days where it was kind of 30 to around Newry, just to get a little bit of recovery for the end.
Bit of a deload day.
Of a deload day. I know, it's crazy even saying that.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me, all this was for a charity that you founded, isn't that correct? Or maybe
Certainly
want to
is.
tell me a little bit about that?
Certainly. So it's called Checking on a Mate. And so I lost my best mate to suicide about 5 years ago at the start of university, and that's what got me into Ironman, into triathlon, and the world of endurance. And his name was Ollie Cheshire. He was a fantastic guy. And looking back on our relationship, we went to the gym every day. We played rugby most days, but not once did we speak about mental health. And it wasn't until after he passed that I found out that he'd been suffering from depression for the best part of 5 years. And, it's something that, I have to live with in terms of, I wish I'd been able to ask those questions to see how he really was. And I didn't, but now I get the opportunity to spread that message, to spread his story. And he's very much part of my why in terms of, why I do these things, why I push myself in this way. And a year later, another very close friend, Honor Edwards, she was studying medicine up in Nottingham, and she passed away from suicide as well. So two friends from the same kind of friendship group, same school, both dead. And that really left me spiraling mentally. I'd not really had much kind of encounter or understanding of grief before. And then all of a sudden it's, I feel like I've been struck by lightning twice, and
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to look after myself. I didn't know what to do, and very much relied and depended on exercise as a means of looking after myself, looking after my mental health, and kind of as many of us do, is kind of an outlet for stress. And with their deaths, I got into the Ironman stuff as a means of raising awareness, raising money for different charities, and checking on a mate became a bit of a kind of slogan or a strap line for the fundraising. And it was a family member of mine, actually a cousin, said, I think this could be something. And originally it started off as just a bit of a campaign for awareness, trying to get people, keep it very colloquial, very easy, just checking on a mate, ask twice, see how they're actually feeling. And it started as kind of run clubs, and then we built into kind of paddle days, and then lots of people started fundraising for us. And what we do is we go into schools and universities from kind of lower cert age, from kind of GCSE age, and we teach, we give a talk. I give a bit of a talk in terms of my experience with mental health, with their stories, with exercise, and how that's helped me, and kind of a bit of a toolbox in terms of how people can look after themselves. And then we talk about the mental health stuff and the importance of checking in on their mates. And then we go in again and we offer kind of courses to teachers and staff in terms of mental health first aid. So people are highly trained, but we've also kind of spoken to everyone as well. So we spend a lot of our money and a lot of time doing that. And the message is very simple, is to check in on your mate, whether that's, asking to go on a run, go for a coffee, grab a beer, whatever it may be. Just go in and check in on them, and you'll notice, and we're all guilty of doing it, is when you ask someone how they are, you get the automated responses. Well, I'm good, I'm fine, thank you. But if you ask again, "Oh, how have you really been feeling recently? How's life been?" You get a whole lot more. And it's just such a powerful way of saying how someone truly is if, this day and age, lots of masks are put on, and it's easy to kind of hide. But It's just asking people how life's really been. So that's kind of what checking it does and kind of aims to achieve.
And it's possibly more men than women that aren't very vocal and aren't very good with the questioning. It is, yeah, it is so important to talk, and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. If people want to look further or donate, how can they look into that?
Certainly. So we've got a website. It's www.checkinonaMate.com. We're on all forms of social media, and on our website as well, there's the option to, if you just a big yellow button that says donate, and that takes you through to kind of show what we do and the opportunity to donate as well.
And did Project Ireland help with all that?
It certainly did. So we raised, I think we're at £9,800, so very nearly at £10,000, which
That's excellent.
I'm very, very pleased about.
That's brilliant. And tell me, when you're in with the schools and giving the talks, do is that well received, or is it something that we're still trying to educate the younger people, or are they? I mean, my generation probably wouldn't have been anywhere near as communicative as the youngers, but does that all help? And do you feel that there's a good response and feeling from them?
I truly do, and I wouldn't I wouldn't be kind of pushing so heavily for the education stuff if I didn't believe that's where I think the most benefit can be had. So what we started, so we give the talk, and the talks have been really well received in terms of people being quite shocked at, me only being seemingly kind of a few years older than them. I think with me being quite, similar to their age, it's easy for me to kind of get the point across and say, well, I was sat in your seat, not that long ago, and this is what's happened, and this is why it's important to ask these questions. So from that point of view, it's quite well received. But I think what we've started doing now is we've collected evidence. So before we give the training, the training courses will go in and we'll kind of survey the people before in terms of how confident they feel, asking questions around suicide, how confident they feel, check in on people. And then we get the responses before, and then we get responses after they've had the course, and the responses 6 weeks after the course. And the results have been really positive. People, kind of saying that they think this should be mainstream, thinking that this should be kind of built into the teaching system. And our plans very much are, once we've gathered enough evidence, is to kind of start, and already started doing this with medical schools, but building it into curriculum, building it into just everyday teaching, so that people are getting this taught in, because it's only a half-day course, but has such a massive benefit. And with my background in medicine, every single year we get basic life support, and kind of built on it gets drilled into us, but nothing with regards to mental health first aid. And I just see such a massive benefit, and it can potentially save a life. And what a powerful thing that is to be able to do, and simply by speaking to someone. So we're very much trying to build this into the educational system, so that every school, every child who goes through gets some form of training in terms of how to look after their mental health and how to look after their mates as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously, with the podcast being primarily about running, we've talked a lot about, when you're going on the long run and when you're going on, there's far more opportunity to talk to people, and the amount of detail and, when a superficial level, if you're chatting to someone in a coffee shop, doesn't always give you the opportunity, but a longer run, the amount of topics that are covered are amazing. So even getting people into exercises, into running, into camaraderie, all that must help, I would hope.
Massively so. That's why I'm such a big believer in the run clubs. So we've run clubs, but they're social. It's not about pace and all that. It's We go incredibly slow, kind of 7-8 minute per kilometer pace, but it's just an opportunity to be outside and to speak with people. And I say before, I give a bit of a talk before, in terms of the whole premise of this run is that you run with someone someone you don't know, but at some point throughout the run, you ask how they've really been.
Mm.
And it's a lot easier to speak and open up when you're shoulder by shoulder, as opposed to face to face. It feels a lot easier, especially if you're outside and you're moving. It just comes a bit more naturally. So I'm a big believer in getting people outside and going on runs, walks, any form of exercise, and using that as a way to check in as well.
And where are these run clubs, or where have you started them? Where can people find out about them?
Certainly. So at the moment, it's in London, Nottingham, and Bristol, and we're starting to hopefully get one in Belfast, and we'd absolutely love to get a few going down in Ireland as well. So it's very much one of those is we're looking for people to help build them out as well, to be ambassadors for Check In and Mate, and we'll provide all the information, we'll provide all the kits and merchandise. We like to hand out kind of wristbands and water bottles as well on the day. They're all branded so people can help spread the message through that as well. So if anyone's interested in doing that, it's very much a possibility as well.
And is that accessible through Check In on a Mate as well, the website, or?
It certainly is. So there's a little option to kind of get involved on the website, and then there's a whole list of the different ways. One of them is a run club ambassador, and if you type in that, you'll get a little list, and you have to fill that out, and then we'll get you all onboarded, and you'll be able to start running clubs.
Parkrun for me it was a great outlet and a great community. But yeah, I mean, if there is anyone out there that's interested, they should definitely check it out, because that sounds like a great way of getting everybody out and talking, which is the main point of it all. So your friends were obviously very young then as well, because you're a young chap, really, aren't you?
Yes, I'm 23, and so Ollie, when he passed away, he was 18. It was only a few days before his 19th birthday, and Honor had just had her 20th birthday. So yeah, incredibly young.
Yeah. And I mean, it was, like I said earlier, it was Tomas from Step One Socks, who obviously is a great ambassador for positive message, and everything that he seems to produce is great for mental health awareness. But he was just telling me a bit about your story, and firstly, I was just impressed that you were running the length of Ireland. Then to hear that you've set up a charity, and it's just for 23 years of age. And you're in medical school. I mean, where you find the time, but it's a huge credit to you, and I'm really inspired, having just had this 30 minutes listening to you, that it's just an amazing thing that you're doing and have done. So it's brilliant, and I hope people will support, because that's the only way you'll get a bigger network, isn't it, really? Is there anything that you'd like to add, or anything that you've got coming up?
Coming up, absolutely nothing. I'm going into my last rugby university season, so I think I'll try and put a few kilos of muscle on for that, hopefully. But it's so easy to finish an event, finish a race, and go, what next? What next? What
Yeah.
next? And I've been at fault of that for the last few years, and now I just want to step back. I just want to enjoy fitness for what it is, enjoy movement with my body. I'm actually considering just stopping the Strava stuff, just stopping the metrics, just to enjoy being outside, enjoy being able to just run, as opposed to what pace am I running at, what's my heart rate, all this stuff that's so easy to get bogged down with. So for the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy fitness. I'm just going to enjoy movement, and I'm sure I'll get the itch again eventually, but I've told myself, not for another year, nothing big for another year. Let's just enjoy life for the moment, and not get swept away in the what next, as it's so easy to.
Yeah, and I think there has to be, you just need to sit back and more or less enjoy what you've done as well, and take it all in, and the huge benefits that I'm sure it's going to create for the charity will keep going, because I'm sure the more people that hear about it, the more people that'll talk about it. From a social media point of view, any, what's the word, handles, where can people look up and follow your journey, or look back on your journey?
Certainly. So yes, on Instagram, on TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, it's at Paddy McClintock. That's McClintock. Paddy.McClintock, I believe. And the charity is at Check In on a Mate.
Brilliant. I'm going to put all of that anyway on the footnotes to this podcast. But like I've said already, I'm just blown away, and I think you deserve huge credit. What you have done and what you are doing is brilliant, and just thanks for coming on and sharing with everybody, because that's been an amazing fortnight for you, but it's also going to benefit so many people in the future. So thank you very much for that.
No, thank you for having me on and for taking the time. I massively appreciate it. So thank you.
That's great. And that is episode 53 of the Middle of the Pack podcast, where my guest, Paddy McClintock, genuinely just blew me away with his his calming voice, his amazing ability to communicate with the younger people, and the fact that he set up a charity at such a young age, brilliant. So check out all the footnotes on how to contribute, how to help. But for this week, thanks for listening and keep on running.